welcome back to StabilityWOD. My friend Dave and I are here again talking about sort of the culmination of everything that I've been teaching the last week or so around leg alignment, and that's because Dave has been dealing with, you want to tell them what you've been working on?
Yeah, dealing with some pain on the inside of my knee and controlling movement of my knee to fix that.
Yeah, so Dave's an incredible rock climber, incredible CrossFitter, and he's also a very talented runner. And around here in Boulder, we have lots of hills, and all we want to do is run hills because it's so much fun. So as we start running more hills and the volume gets high, there's a lot more stress going across our entire leg, our foot, our knee, our hip, and it really tests how well put together we are biomechanically. And as strong as Dave is, there's a little bit of a component of breakdown of his alignment when he starts to get tired, especially given all the other sports you're playing. So the IT band starts to become a factor, and the whole leg then needs to be re-educated how to move. So we've been spending some time talking about Dave's foot position and neutral foot last week from his, because he, maybe show us a two-leg squat, Dave. When he two-leg squats, this ability to maintain a neutral foot, have a knee drive out so his knee tracks lateral to his foot, and he's relatively comfortable in that position. Come on back up. When he goes to one foot, suddenly he feels like he has this compensation strategy of having to roll to the outside of his foot in order to get his knee where he wants it, and his big toe comes off the ground and he's off balance. Now, as you all know now, running is just a series of jumps from one leg to the other, so you have to be very confident on one leg or else things start to break down. So what we worked on is, okay, let's find this neutral. A little demonstration of how you can keep that big toe firmly planted on the ground, the bunion part of your big toe, and still raise up your midfoot. What this does is it creates a little bit of a curved shape to his foot. As his midfoot comes up, he has a nice arch contour. And already it orients his knee pointing laterally, but he's very intentional about keeping his big toe on the ground. As soon as he then starts to squat, let's see if he can maintain that foot position. Now already he has his knee tracking in a better position. If I dropped a plumb line, we'd see that it's dropping down over his little toe side of his foot, which is pretty good. Come on back up. Now a lot of people, once they get that dialed, they get the hip control looking good, their pelvis starts to want to drop. And Dave, maybe you can show us an example of that where you do a little squat and then this side, the unsupported side of your pelvis drops away and you end up leaning and doing some compensation in order to correct for the imbalance. Come on back up. So if you do this in a mirror, you'll see this right away. You get the knee tracking where you want it, you get the foot positioned well, but then the pelvis starts to drop. So go ahead and do it again, Dave. Show them the pelvis dropping, and then show them the correction of bringing that back up. What it does is it brings his spine back vertical. If you could shift your hips a little more to the left, Dave. He still has his knee tracking where we want it to track. He still has his foot in a neutral position. What if you put this leg behind you, Dave? Good. That's more like a running position, although his arms probably wouldn't be out like he was on a tightrope. And we bring this hip back up, shift your hips to the left, and there's the alignment we're looking for. Now his left glute has to do a ton of work to be able to control his knee and everything down the chain from there. So I showed you a glute medius strengthening exercise last week to try to get that muscle tired, try to get it stronger, try to get it alive and doing its job better. What he has to do now is integrate that into his single leg squat. Come on back up. You getting tired? Yeah. So it really starts to burn in the glute, even just holding it there. What I like to tell people is when you're running, if I were to take a picture of you in mid-stride, let's say going uphill, jumping up a rock and landing, what I want to see is that alignment of your foot, your knee, your pelvis, and your spine, all tracking that way before you go up into the next step. Try it one more time, Dave. Keep this leg behind you. You're going to find your nice arch position, big toes on the ground. Sit back into the squat, just like you would your two-leg squat. So your hips go back, shoulders go forward, the knees tracking out. And his left glute here, the glute on the side he's standing on, is working like crazy to keep this side of his pelvis from dropping. And he has to be very intentional about that. I'm going to just correct his spine a little bit so it's a little more upright. And then there he is. There's his sort of freeze frame position if I were to take a picture of him running uphill on a trail. Let's try the other leg, Dave. How's that feel? What do you feel?
My foot's getting tired.
Your foot. So you feel it in your arch or your lower leg?
Arch more than anything.
You feel in your arch?
Arch in my hip.
Okay, good. So that's a good sign that you're now learning that your foot is doing one thing and your hip is doing another thing.
Yeah.
But they're working together at the end of the day to keep that knee positioned where you want it to be positioned. Now I'm going to give you one more cue. Try this again. And this is complex stuff, you guys. This is stuff that I can work sometimes for 20, 30 minutes with someone in a mirror until they really start to feel it. And once it clicks, it's amazing how this carries back over into their running. Did you switch feet? That one's already tired enough. All right, let's come to the fresh side. So another error that I see people making is that as they initiate their squat, especially people with knee pain, they initiate from their knee. And as we know from two-leg squatting, that's not ideal. We don't want to initiate the squat from the knee with an upright trunk. We want to initiate from the hip, with the butt going back. And sometimes I'll even block the knee so it doesn't come forward too far, because we're not doing a full depth squat. Stays back, hips go back. He's working really hard through his foot. He's working hard through the glute on the right side, the side he's standing on. I'm going to bring his pelvis up just a little bit, which is going to make his glute do its other job. Stabilizing the knees, one job. Stabilizing the pelvis to keep it level is the other job. And then I'm going to bring him over to the right just a little bit. So that foot truly comes underneath him. And I think because he's a CrossFit athlete, he spends a lot of time on two legs. Having one leg underneath his center of gravity is difficult. As I said before, when you're running, the turnover is so fast that you can really get away with this. You can get away with these little subtle movement faults. But as soon as the mileage goes up or you start doing a ton of hilly running, you have to dial this in. You have to get this to be way more precise so that every landing you are as close to the right position as you can be in with, excuse me, with some room for error, of course, but most of your steps should be done in proper alignment. Where do you feel that, Dave? Glute and foot again. So it's really consistent. Now, single leg squats, single leg balancing is how I usually start people. Single leg squats to limited depth, I think, is a nice next step. And then as we start to explore going a little bit deeper, or if people are having a hard time with balance, generally I'll have them put their foot on something, a chair or a box or something, and they'll do what's called a split squat, Bulgarian split squat. So you're going to sit back towards the chair, Dave, just like your two-leg squat. You're going to initiate from your hips. Knee doesn't come forward very far. You're kind of sitting back into your hip in that way. And the back leg just gives him a little bit of balance. It gives him a little bit of help with keeping his pelvis level. He can really focus on his foot, his knee tracking right over the lateral part of his foot. And he can really start to explore how proper alignment feels to full depth before you fully take that chair away and then get back to working towards even like a pistol, which I think is almost impossible to do in the right position for most people. But
Shrimp squat, maybe.
a shrimp squat. You want to show us a shrimp squat? Nice. So it's like similar to a split squat, but without the back leg up on something. You're just taking that support away, taking that feedback away. So I like to encourage people to, as always, to do this to fatigue. Make sure they're fatiguing in the right spots. Maybe the hip, the glute, maybe the foot, the arch, the lower leg. Wear the thing out, and then just gradually start to progress through the steps to make it more advanced over time. Any other insights, Dave, into how this feels to you, having maybe never done this before?
Surprisingly challenging, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, given how athletic you are and how strong you are.
Having the intention in the right is on balancing.
And how,
going to where I naturally want to just fall to balance.
Yeah. And without that intention, you fall back into your pattern, which is a pretty good pattern until you get to 40 plus miles a week of hilly trail running. Yeah. And suddenly you're like, well, that pattern's not working anymore. I have to kind of just dial it in a little bit. So you guys, that's the culmination of everything we've talked about the last few weeks. This is kind of advanced stuff. I really think it requires a mirror, and I have the only mirror in the entire CrossFit gym. So people rely on coming to my office to learn this stuff because the visual feedback is so important, especially when you're first learning. So give this a try. Let me know if you have any comments. I understand you might have a little tough time figuring out all the details, but go back and watch my other videos, all the components of this movement, and that'll help you dial it in really well. Thanks for tuning in to StabilityWOD. If you liked what you saw today and you like Dave, click the like button below. I'd love to hear your comments, and please take a second to subscribe while you're there. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Dave, for your help.